Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Now in today's video we're going to be sharing with you some of our best tips and tricks on how you can score more penalties and how you can win more penalty shootouts. Pretty much 90% of your penalty shootouts you'll be able to win with today's tips. So we're going to be sharing with you plenty of strategies and techniques that you can apply and will help you win more penalty shootouts as you play your games, whether that be in FUT Champs, in Rivals or in Draft. So if you do want to continue to support us, then make sure that you hit that like button, make sure that you subscribe, and make sure you turn on that notifications bell so that you know exactly when we release new content. So let's go over some of the basics before we get into some of the strategies when it comes to penalties and how you can become a better penalty taker. Now, one of the things that you need to do is you need to make sure that you shoot, of course, when the circle is at the smallest. So don't shoot when it's red or when it's yellow. Try and time it when it's green. And when you have players that have better penalties, better penalty stats, that circle is going to stay a little bit longer as that sort of small dot, and it'll be easier to time. So the one thing you need to make sure you've got is an appropriate penalty taker. As you can see in the examples we're going to be using today, we're going to be using Messi as our penalty taker. So the better the penalty taker, the easier it is to time your penalties. So let's go on to some tips to score more penalties and some of the first things that you need to do. Now, first up, we would suggest making people wait. Now, what do we mean when we say make people wait? A lot of people like to rush. Like, you get a 3, 4, 5, 6 times, 6 opportunities to sort of time that penalty. A lot of people like the first time the circle gets, boom, they'll go straight for it. Now, why does waiting help? Waiting gives you a really good psychological edge over your opponent, because the longer that you sort of leave them hanging, the longer that you wait to take your penalty, you already know, you might look at your pen and go, right, I'm going top right, for example. The longer you leave it, the more your opponent is going to begin to second guess themselves. They might already have a decision on where they're going to dive. They might think, right, I'm going to go to the left, and you've already gone to the right. So the longer that you make them wait, they might start second guessing and think, actually, maybe I'm going to go left, maybe I'll stay down the middle, and then they start to get confused. They don't know what they're going to do, and it just gives you that little edge that you need. So we always recommend and we always suggest waiting as long as you can to take your penalties, because like I said, it does give you that edge, and it's just going to get your opponent a bit flustered. Question, hey, is this guy going to go down the middle? Of course, things like power come into it, which we're going to get into a little bit later on. The power you put on your penalties as well plays a real critical role in whether you score, and also just the psychology of knowing when you're going to score goals and knowing when you're going to save penalties. Now, going into tip number 2, it is something we just touched on. It is making sure that you vary your power. Now, why is varying your power so important? The reason why varying your power when you're taking penalties is so important is because certain power levels really kind of like psychologically tell your opponent, tell the keeper where you're going to go. A lot of the times when you put, for example, very little power on your penalty, it makes people think you're going to do some sort of chip, maybe the Panenka, which means you're probably going to go down the middle. But also, going sort of with no power really sort of implies that if the keeper just dives the right way, they're going to save it all the time. As you see with that penalty right there, was quite poor. No power on it, keeper just dives the right way, they're going to save it. When you put loads of power on your penalties, even if the keeper dives the right way, you might still score. So making sure, especially in penalty shootouts, that you really vary your power. Sometimes smash it in the top corner, but sometimes make sure you just go for little dinks, because it's just going to put your opponent off balance. And third up, again, is something that we really just touched on in the last tip, is making sure that you mix up your technique. So making sure that sometimes you smash your penalties. So sometimes you pick a direction, you say, right, I'm going to go to the left, I'm going to put 3.5 bars of power on it, and I'm going to smash it. And then, maybe not the next penalty, maybe the third penalty, you think, right, instead of smashing it, this time I'm going to be a bit delicate. I'm going to go for that Panenka. Making sure you mix up your power, making sure you mix up your directions, making sure you mix up your techniques is going to make you more unpredictable when you're taking penalties. And the biggest thing that you don't want to give your opponent is you don't want to give them any patterns, because that's what sort of makes it easy as a goalkeeper, when you're saving penalties, is that if you notice your opponent always likes to smash the ball top right, you're going to eventually get sort of catch on, and you're going to think, right, eventually he's going to dive top right, he's going to smash one top right again. And then your opponent's just going to keep diving, and eventually he's going to get one right. So now let's move into a couple of tips that you can apply in terms of making more saves and saving more penalties. Now, one thing that we really like to do with our, when it comes to saving penalties, and a lot of people like to do this as well, is just move that left directional stick. Just move left and right in the goal. You know, and the reason why, again, this is a psychological thing. This is something about strategy. You know, we saw Emi Martinez do this a lot in the World Cup, you know, and the antics sort of pre-taking the penalties. He was moving around a lot, making faces, trying to just get his opponent off kilter. And we find that when you just sort of sidestep left to right, you know, it might just sort of off-put your opponent and just make him think, okay, he's moving left and right, left and right, left and right, and then you might have a decision in mind, and then boom, you know, you move left, right, left, right, left, right, and then you just dive one way, and eventually you're going to get more right than you wrong. You see how many times this time around we managed to get 5 out of 5 that time. We saved 5 and we scored 5. So it's really important that you sort of take all of these tips in mind. Of course, you're not going to have like 100% guaranteed success to win every penalty shootout and to sort of like save every penalty and whatnot, but it's certainly, if you apply these tips, it's going to give you a much better chance and a much better opportunity to make more saves and to score more penalties. So making sure you're unpredictable, making sure you vary up your power, your technique, using penankas, and making sure you move your goalkeeper around a lot. And also use the A, X, and Y, because it does certain little antics before you take a penalty, just to kind of wind your opponent up, and just might just give you that little bit of psychological edge, because penalties is all about psychological. Because at the end of the day, you can look in terms of diving one way or the other. It's all about psychological. So you just got to win that psychological battle, and you'll win more penalty shootouts than you lose. So in order for us to keep producing more videos like this, then we do need your help with a few things. So make sure that you hit that like button, make sure that you subscribe, and make sure you hit that notifications bell so that you know exactly when we release new videos. And if you want to ask us any more questions, make sure you join our Discord. The link to that is down in the description below. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.